Hello and welcome. I'm George, the founder of Sharing with Care TV. I'll be sharing with you an incredible interview with Tayo Idowu, the managing director of Ebony Life. Among many business areas of development, Ebony Life creates culturally appropriate board games for elders with dementia. These games encourage children, families, and friends to share invaluable intergenerational histories that, without capturing, can become lost forever once elders have passed away. Tyro's vision for his company is truly amazing. Personally speaking, his board game should be used by all cultures and communities across the globe to help capture the stories of our precious elders. Anyway, sit back and I hope you enjoy the interview. Thank you.
Thank you for offering your time, expertise. Can you just talk a bit about your background, your reasons for setting up a company? Yeah, just yeah. So who are you?
My name's Tayo. I'm currently run a company called Ebony Life, whose mission is to bring Afrocentric toys and games to initially to the Black community, and secondly to the wider community, a wider society. So it's about bringing the achievements around Black historical figures, and also of the contributions of the Windrush generation, and ensuring that our Black community, families, children know about those through our activity resources, which we'll talk about more later. My background is varied, but for the last 15 or so years, I run a graphic design company. So I provide a range of graphic design and printing and PR services to small businesses, charities, essentially anybody who can pay. I've used my skills and my knowledge of printing and design and all of that to create this range of resources. Now, the creation of them came about in an interesting way. I had a friend of mine whose mother had dementia, and she was lamenting to me that at her local dementia club, there weren't any resources whatsoever, for African Caribbean people with dementia. And she said to me, well, you're a designer, why don't you create something? So I thought, well, this is interesting. There's obviously a gap in the market. And secondly, it's something I can give back to the community. So I went away and I created, initially I spoke to elders in various luncheon clubs and charities, and I came up with the idea of creating an activity resource book and a few other resources. So it all came from there, and then we began to sell those.
Okay, so when that's fantastic, and I will definitely explore more books in terms of the elders. I'm really interested to see what their response was like when you had the initial discussion. So the company itself? So how long has the company been going on?
It's been for about 2 years now. We're just post COVID. We actually started before COVID, but obviously it was difficult to engage with many of the organizations because they just weren't there. But I would say since COVID ended, or supposed to have ended, it's been since then. Yes.
Okay. So just flipping back to when you're doing your research and you're engaging with the elders to get their their response to the game. What was their response like when you spoke to them?
Well, I mean, they were thrilled because obviously, they recognized that there weren't any resources out there. I mean, there were things available, things like organizations were doing music CDs, stuff to do around music. One or two people were doing simple jigsaws, but there was really nothing that kind of on the level that I was going to do it, which was to sort of take some of the things that they told me about their experiences and put that into a range of resources.
So they actually helped to create the game based, as you say, based on their lived experience.
Yes, because I remember when my most popular resource is a Caribbean front room, and you know, which is obviously very iconic in very Caribbean life. So I remember going to an elders association and said, look, I want to create these resources. Just tell me the kind of, obviously I knew some from my Caribbean friends when I was growing up. But obviously I went to them and they said to me, well, yes, remember we used to have, you know, obviously I knew about the radiogram, but things like the glass fish, the drinks that were around, the things that would have been on the wall. I mean, I just got so many ideas and whatever, but obviously I couldn't put all of them into the puzzle. But that was definitely something that came from discussing, you know, with the elders.
Okay, and I guess once you've had your prototype and it's now created, and you shared it with the elders, what was their response when you're having to you've now got your product and sharing it with the elders?
You know what? It's amazing. Even no matter where we go, people just stop and they just say, that was my front room. You know, so it's not even elders, it's people in their 50s and their even up to younger people. I met a young guy who were at Croydon on Saturday. I met a young guy who he came up to me and said, that's my granddad's sitting room. I mean, even though it wasn't his sitting room, the memories of his granddad, going to see his granddad, and that was the sitting room that was there. So even he could relate to it. So it's an amazing, it's just an attention grabber. That's the only word I can use. It just arrests people. People just point to it and they remember, you know, the gram, or they remember this. And they was saying to me, you know, where's this piece? Where's that? You know, and I said, you know, so that just goes to show how much they were engaging in it. It brought back flood of memories to them that they immediately transported them back to that time that they were accusing me of not putting certain things, you know, that would have been there. And
sorry.
And an interesting point is that young people come up to me and say, well, why have you got a white Jesus there? Why not a black Jesus? I said, well, look, it wouldn't be authentic. You wouldn't go into a museum of 1960s and see a modern telephone. You know, the thing have to reflect the time that it was in. And at that time, every Caribbean household and African household had a white Jesus. And that's just how it was.
That's interesting saying that, because there is an older because I remember with my mum and my aunts who are like now 80s plus, they would never ever actually think about an image of a white Jesus. It's just Jesus, somebody you pray to, we go to church, you come back. And even the image of, say, Jesus or Christ in the church, it's a white icon figure. It's not something you think about. So it's interesting how younger generation have picked up on that. So they're quite politicized as well. They're looking at things on a cultural and political level. But equally, from what you're saying here, Tayo, what's a really powerful process, what I'm seeing here, is bringing the young and the old together. There is a transference. There is like a filtration of the past meeting the present, and the past informing the younger generation. So, as you said, that younger people, whether they're 50 or you know, younger grandchildren, it's bringing back memories for them. This is why I thought, you know, just when you explained to me, I thought this is brilliant, because I've always thought, how do you capture the memories of the older generation? Because in reality, our natural cycle of life, there is also death, and that information will go with the elders.
Yeah.
But you brought something where it encourages communication between the two.
Oh yeah, definitely. Interesting enough, when we started to create it, we only created 80 pieces, because that was kept from 24 to 80 pieces, because that was the amount that that dementia patients obviously, you know, could do, you know, when they're working with them. But we're getting more and more calls, just as you said, from people in their 50s and 60s that want to capture that memory. And so we're now in the process of creating a 500-piece jigsaws.
Ooh, wow.
Of the front room. you know, so that our generation can put that puzzle together and show their children that this was our sitting room, because it was their sitting room as much as it was their elder sitting room. You know, there may have been, like I was, you may have been 10 or 12 or even up to in your 20s, or even in the case of the young man that I met. You know, but you want to capture that, and it was something that, and it was about the thing that captured everybody's imagination.
Yeah, what's really fascinating here, because it seems that you held on to the fact when you presented the earlier kind of models of your games, people said, yeah, but what about this? What about that? So now has that triggered you? Is that kind of that inspired you to think, well, no, we need a bigger jigsaw here?
Yes, yes.
Because it's what's wanted, and it's much more fuller and richer in people's histories.
Yes.
Okay. So you also mentioned, just to go back, you said that initially, if I'm wrong here, that your board games were you only have like 80 pieces to start, because that's as much information individuals can
Yeah, well,
contain.
yes, that's right. That's what you find. I mean, we were aiming mainly at the dementia community. So our resources were aimed at the dementia community because there was nothing there for them. But as I said, as time has progressed, we're now expanding that range, like any business does, to include the family, you know, so it's no longer restricted or to the dementia community. Is now we're creating games that families can enjoy as a family, around, as we said, Black history and the experiences of the Windrush.
Okay. In terms of scientifically, have you worked with the scientific community, because dementia is a psychological reason?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to a few people really around the concept of reminiscence therapy, because the whole purpose of the resources in terms of people with dementia is to trigger reminiscence, and reminiscence is a powerful tool in how a person sees themselves. So in terms of, we want them to feel a sense of self-esteem and resilience. So for instance, when we look at some of the resources that they see, like the paraffin heater, you know, they think, oh my gosh, how resilient we were in those days. There wasn't any central heating. You know, I'm always teasing my son, saying every minute you put the heating on. Back in our days, we didn't even have any heater. So all of that, in the elders, creates that sense of self-esteem and resilience, and that self-esteem is a confidence booster. It makes them feel that they have achieved something for all of their struggles. They've struggled and they've come through it, you know, through that struggle to provide themselves and their children a better life. And so that has been, we kind of worked around looking at that aspect of our resources in helping to create that constant sense of reminiscence and storytelling.
And in terms of, well, going back to the term reminiscence and the confidence boosting, I'm assuming here that an individual that's experiencing dementia, they're losing a lot of themselves already just from that illness. And the confidence boost would be, I guess, just engaging.
Yes.
Having a tool to engage with their own children, their grandchildren.
Yes.
To boost that gives them that recognition. They're not just falling by the wayside.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously, you know, if they see things that reminds them of their struggle and of their resistance, it's powerful. It's powerful. Completely. You know, because their body might be withering, but whatever. But remember that the time that they were strong, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, the time that they could do X, Y, and Z, you know, and these are the things that sort of help them to trigger it. So for instance, even when they see things like the platform shoes, they're kind of, oh my gosh, I remember when I was 20, I could be able to totter about in these shoes. and they'll be talking about how nice their figure was in those days. You know, so all of these things are powerful. It's just in the same way as when my children see pictures of me with hair. Say, oh, and they're shocked. Say, well, I did have hair once. you know what I mean. And
I wasn't just born bald.
Yeah, exactly. And they're shocked. And I think, well, why are you shocked? You know, I did have hair once.
And also in terms of like organizations, have you worked with organizations?
Oh yes, I mean we do a lot of sales online. We have sold to a lot of organizations, yes. And in fact, the Alzheimer's Society has our coloring books in their store.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. And how long, in terms of your, okay, so let's say you do the puzzles, you mentioned coloring books. So what other resources do you actually, what do you offer? What's
well, we offer, we just create, so we offer, for instance, we offer some card games. So for instance, we have a card game called Go Windrush and Go Heroes. So the Windrush version features items from the Windrush generation, you know, as I said, with the glassfish, the pirate's dish, you know, the cherry bee drink, you know, sorry, excuse me. So it features all of that. And the idea of the game is for them to try and match pairs, but they're also items that we find out people just talk about. So for instance, now, if they're showing an image, the other day we showed an image of the green shield stamps. And then put a whole conversation about green shield stamps, what people used to do with it, people used to go to the shops and all of that. But we try to show in the card game that a lot of these things are intergenerational. Like, for instance, we try to show that the modern club cards or the Nectar card or the Tesco's card are no different from the green shield stamps.
Very similar. The idea behind it is very similar.
The idea is exactly the same. You know, you collect points, but the only difference is that in our days, you have to go to a shop to go and redeem your stamps. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to bring, as I said, the Windrush history and Black history into the home via games where people can begin to engage and then begin to learn more and then hopefully research more. So for instance, in our Go Heroes games, is a similar theme. You try and collect heroes. So have people like Claudia Jones, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, Hannibal, you know, various pharaohs, Marcus Garvey, Huey Newton's, a whole range. And the whole idea is that you learn a little bit about each of these heroes from the card. But if you want to then learn about more, you know, who Hannibal was and what his achievement was, then the cards could act as a springboard for you to go and learn more.
This is brilliant. I love the educational of your work with business. In fact, I'm thinking like there is space, there is scope for this to be in mainstream education. But this would, and not just, yeah, Black history is good, but I always feel that Black history isn't just a month. You have 26 days across the year. But your resources would work fabulously inside schools. Have you had any opportunity to engage with schools at all?
I mean, not as yet. I mean, there's a reason for that. We want to build up, as I said, our first focus is on engaging with the Black family and building up, for want of a better word, our brand name within that sector.
Okay.
You know, so we have an established sector that is continuously, hopefully engaging and purchasing our resources. And then once we've got that, you know, that going on in the background consistently, we can then use that, we'll then plan to use that as a platform and an evidence that to then present to the schools to say, well, look, this has worked. This is evidence that it's worked within the community. We have this sales, we have this responses, we have these reviews from families themselves. You know, now I want to see how we can get these resources into your school.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're focused on, because that is all evidence-based work that you're doing, and it
Well,
can't be
yes.
challenged. What you can't challenge the evidence. What it's
Yes, yes,
evidence.
and you and I know that these organizations would they work by evidence, or
Absolutely.
if they want to trip you up,
Absolutely.
if they want to trip you up, they'll say, "Where's the evidence?"
Whereas yeah, but even if they like the idea, it's like prove it. Can you prove it to me? I like, and also the fact that you're focusing on families, black families as well, particularly. That's a whole host. Hey, it's like this is not just London. This is like there's many cities in England and beyond the borders of England. So the scope, the scope of your, in terms of Ebony Life is vast. So where do you see it going? What's your dream? What's your ultimate? Where would you like this to go? Where would you love to see this go?
Well, I would just like to, as you say, it was like to have the idea that it's our resources can be global, can obviously be something that can travel as far as Africa, America, or whatever. But that's a far vision. Our immediate focus is on the UK and on establishing a name there.
Okay. I also see this. I have some crazy visions and ideas when it comes to industries or businesses that I think are just so incredibly valuable. I think it's got potentially long term to go online. There's scope. So, as
Oh no,
you grow,
we are online already.
I mean, as a game, in terms of like as a board game, online board game.
Yes, I mean we are investigating that because our next focus after as I said, after establishing in a sense our resources is to have an online version of it. So for instance, and then have a subscription model. So just as you said, people can go online and play the word searches, or they can go online and do the puzzles, or they can go online and engage with our resources. They can go online to read books, because now people read books on iPads and things like that. So we have ideas to take it. I mean, that is our next focus. Is to take it online, where families will just pay a monthly subscription and they'll have access to a whole plethora of resources, be it reading books, be it games, and so forth.
This is amazing what you've got here, and it's definitely a 24/7 investment of your time and energy, but something which is fruitful. And I believe communities, all Black communities, equally, the fact that you're looking at dementia, this actually potentially crosses over into white community, Asian community, because there's the elders.
Oh yes.
There's younger people with dementia as well, but I'm just surprised to find out. So in terms of that scope, you definitely, as you mentioned, you focus on Black families, UK based, longer term, online. But what about when the longer term, in terms of the other cultures, other communities?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like all of these things. It's, as I said to you before, it's easier to establish yourself initially in the lower hanging fruit. I don't want to use that word, which is our community. People who would naturally respond to you as a business person, and because you're from community. And as I said before, it's then easier once you have that background and that evidence and that experience to then look at the bigger picture. And now, in that case, you would then be looking at bringing in investors and seeing how you can do it on a massive scale. So it wouldn't just be you on your own, as it were, over a small team. That's a stage where you could just say, well, look, right now we can go for investments. We can set up a team to look at how we can engage or create new resources for the Asian community or for the wider mainstream community.
But I can see that demand eventually coming once you like really establish your name in the Black community, families. I can see, because it all just there's families who are mixed.
Oh, of course,
like
yes.
a Black person or white person or Asian, whatever the case may be. It will naturally, I can see it naturally, organically
Yes.
crossing over, and then your
Yes.
demand will expand again,
Yes. Yes.
which is fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's sorry.
Yeah. And I think it's easier in terms of, how can I put it, in terms of doing that once you're fully established, because it's then, if people do try and copy you, it's hard for them to succeed because you've established yourself.
Completely.
And it will hopefully be easier for you to target other communities, because again, they'll be looking, well, how do you know it's going to work with our community? You know, but if you say, well, this is how it's worked with this community and it's been very successful, then you can come on board and create something similar in your community. We can partner with you and create something similar in your community, because it would have to be a partnership.
Sure, definitely. And just to say, if I wanted to buy one of these games to engage with my father or grandparent, how would I go? What's the process? Take me through it.
Well, we have a website called which is ebonylife.co.uk. You can go online there. All our resources are coming up. We're developing a couple more resources. So in the process of developing a Caribbean Chronicle domino game.
Oh wow! Tell me more.
So
is that a secret for now?
No, it's not a secret. It's not a secret.
Okay.
As you know, dominoes is a worldwide game. Obviously, it's much established in the Caribbean community. So I want to create a set of jigsaws that can be used for dementia, where they just simply match the pictures. So for instance, you can engage with your father and say, look, if you got the gram, there's a gram there, let's match the pictures. But they'll also have numbers on them so that it can be played more strategically. So again, people who don't have dementia can still enjoy them, just as you will enjoy dominoes, which is a strategic game, isn't it? So it can work on two levels. It can work simply on matching the pictures, what children can do, people with dementia can do, or anybody can do, or you can then play it as people play dominoes and try to read people's cards and things like that.
Right. Okay. Does it allow for, because dominoes, as we know, it's big in the Caribbean community. Does your game allow them to slam it on the table?
Well, they are made of wood, but they're not made of plastic. So they're made of wood, so that people with dementia can handle them well, and children can handle them well. But they're not. But they're not meant to be slammed on. Slammed from 5 feet high into concrete slabs. No, they're not meant for that. But I think that's all a bit bravado, isn't it? But the love slam.
Yeah. I think it's part of the image, isn't it? It's just part of winding up your opponent.
Yes.
So, Tayo, for our audiences who'll be watching this recording, anything you'd like to say to them in terms of your own burning desire for their engagement, whether it's individual or an organization?
I think people say a lot of, when Black History always comes around, people say, oh, we don't need it. It should be 365 years of the year. I think, you tend to find two factions, if I want to put that way. People who believe in the purpose and importance of Black history, and those who see it as being, wow, we're pigeonholed. But for me, I think learning about our history is very important for one of two reasons. Firstly, the preservation of our cultural heritage. So learning now, for instance, about the history of Black people and their contributions to our history, our struggles, helps to preserve the richness of our cultural heritage. So it also ensures that certain stories and traditions are about our achievers and people who had an impact on the world are passed down to future generations. It was quite interesting because the white society always does that. Anytime you see a rugby match, you'll always see hundreds of people dressed as, Richard Lionheart. Yes or no? Recently, even up to yesterday, I read online that there was rugby fans in Paris dressed as Lord Nelson who were fighting each other. But the fact remains that they are preserving and celebrating the achievements of their heroes. And somehow we feel like it's wrong for us to do that. And I'm saying that, no, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be in exactly the same way as the white community don't feel any reason not to. We should be celebrating our heroes, you know, our Banneker, the inventor, you know, people like Hannibal, you know, who fought against the Romans, people like Septimus Severus, a black emperor, you know, who ruled over Britain. So we have even down to people like Lewis Hamilton. So we have a whole range of people that we should be celebrating. And I think we shouldn't be sidetracked to see celebrating our history as something that's unimportant. Yes, people say it should be 365 years in a year. It is. We are celebrating our history in every way. And I think that like all of these things, the decriers are usually people who don't get involved anyway. You know, I've been involved in charity for many, many years. And I can tell you, most of the people who say, oh, the charities, they spend the money, you know, they buy this, they buy that. I can bet you 90% of them don't even give to charities themselves.
They hold an opinion, but they're not actually actively
Yes,
involved.
I don't take any I don't put any, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't care what they say. But also it's important that we should see looking at our history and our achievements as an inspiration and empowerment to our community. You know, so studying the lives of people like for instance, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, you know, a black composer, which should inspire other young musicians to recognize the adversity he overcame, you know, to achieve, you know, what he achieved. You know, even people like Lewis Hamilton and his achievement, Marcus Rashford. So Black history and the studying of our heroes and the events that took place, we should be celebrating and be empowered by their achievement, not let alone the risks that they took. So people like Harriet Tubman, who ran the Underground Railroad, whereby they gave slaves a passage from the north to the south. These people were risking their lives. You know, every day they're risking their lives. So these are enormous achievements. And I think for me, we should be celebrating these heroes and their, and their impact. And I think lastly, beyond looking at individual people, we should then be looking at issues like reparation, issues like the contribution that Black people made to Victorian England and beyond. I think that there's a collective amnesia on the parts of young society not to recognize or to give importance to our contribution. And I think from Black history, we can begin to have those conversations, look beyond the heroes and say, well, we need recognition for our achievements and recognition for the success of Great Britain and many European countries that was built on the slave trade, and not try and push it away as something that happened a long time ago.
I totally agree with you. And I think what in terms of like just understanding your history and individual, even myself, or all people who are Black, understand your history, and you become a tree with roots. Because right now, I do believe there's many people who may dismiss it. Well, there's no racism, but once you understand you're part of this family tree, and these are your roots, that's a strong foundation to build and move upwards.
Yes.
So from what you're saying here in terms of the information, you're clearly a very knowledgeable scholar, I would say, Tayo.
Not,
And
no, I'm not as many as some, but
take the compliment. You deserve the
thank
compliment.
you.
You've done your homework, and I think to put this in a game format is fantastic, because games generally people come together through gaming, and the fact that you're working in terms of families, dementia community, but also other communities outside of dementia or Alzheimer's. It's really going to galvanize the community there. So I'm conscious of time, and I could talk to you endlessly, but I'm
Thank
very
you.
conscious of time. It would be nice for you to interview you again, to see, to pick up where you are later down the road, and
Yeah.
to share that information again with the audience. But all I can say, thank you from the bottom of my heart,
My
from
pleasure.
sharing your time, valuable time and information and knowledge. And I look forward to just spreading the word out there in terms of Tayo from Ebony Life. This
Thank
is brilliant.
you.
And we need more. Role models like yourself, inspirational speakers like yourself. I can't wait to get in front of a panel. I think we're brilliant. There's so much great to share there. But thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Because for me, it's important. It's a two-way thing. For me, it's important for me to be able to. It helps me to kind of what's the word? Consolidate my views, as it were,
Sure.
and hopefully pass on that message that knowledge of our history is always going to is important. It's always important. Every community looks at their history, and also takes pride in it, the good and the bad, and we should be doing the same.
Thank you again, and we will speak again. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Okay.